Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the omniverse of Nick. And what if Abraham Lincoln survived? I'm your host, Nick. And like always, before we get into today's episode, be sure to smash the like button, subscribe to the omniverse of Nick, and comment your favorite parts of past stories or recently done ones, and future recommendations for what ifs and general discussion that you might get to see on the channel in the future, especially if you keep tabs with the Google Doc now open in every single video and post to see the updates and stories to come for the future. But let's get into this single short parter of what if Abraham Lincoln, the 16th president of the United States, survived. So, yeah, that's basically what the what if is about. My first real life what if on the channel, unless you count the John Cena Walking Dead one. This is covering Abraham Lincoln, the 16th U.S. president, if he survived. And for like the 2% of you that didn't know that, that's why I repeated it twice. And we all know that he was unfortunately assassinated by John Wilkes Booth in theater, and from that point on, even after that, to this day, Abraham Lincoln remains one of America's most important presidents, but he could have done so much more, which is exactly why this what if is the first main one that I wanted to touch upon as a real life one to start it off. So, there are 3 ways that I think that Abraham Lincoln could survive his untimely demise. Number 1, the theater, is actually guarded. Now, back then, guards probably most likely came in short supply, especially for like this kind of event. Security wasn't as high as it is to be maintained, especially for many, many years today, like this day. But also, soldiers eventually did show up. It was only after Abraham Lincoln was assassinated, and they eventually tracked Wilkes Booth down, and he was, killed. Number 2, the bullet that John Wilkes Booth fires, it just misses. Now, that's not to say that he wouldn't shoot somebody, because it was a very confined area to where Abraham Lincoln, his wife, and a few other people that were there were. So, honestly, it would just come down to shooting a rando or Mary Todd Lincoln, which I would not want that to happen, because that's just wrong for me to want to put that in there, honestly. And the fact that it really would just create more of a weird angle for the story. Or, number 3, John Wilkes Booth is just simply caught in the act right before he's about to fire a single shot, and he's able to get apprehended. Either way, either one of those 3 decisions, it means that Abraham Lincoln survives, and he gets to continue being at the theater. I don't know if he would really want to past that, but hey, that's like hundreds of years in the past, so, anything could have happened. Either way, what happens next? What happens after he survives and everything? Well, he would continue his presidency, and we all know that Andrew Johnson was the next president to precede Lincoln. But, since Lincoln would be alive, that means that much of what Johnson did would be worked on by Lincoln. Now, here's something to talk about real quick. Even though plenty of work was put on for Johnson, and he was an above average president, and he would continue on to do some of Lincoln's work, but much of his own, this means that with Lincoln surviving, he would have been able to complete much, if not all, the work that he had envisioned to put forth with the slaves and emancipation, all that, which we're going to talk about right now. And he would actually go in to the rest of his second term, maybe even run for a third. Who knows? He would be able to do everything that he would want to do. More freeing of the slaves, emancipations, and he would continue to literally show his amazing progress as a president. He would go on with the second and third CRM. Much of what Johnson did would be on Lincoln. Not all of it, obviously, because every president more or less had their own standards and still do. But you get what I mean. After that, it's all the same. Well, I say that, but kind of. You see, with Lincoln as the president, like I said, he would have been able to do much, if not all, of what he wanted to do, because there's most likely, and there is, so much that he did not get to do. So he would be able to, and he would be able to either A, run for a third term, or B, retire happily after a second term. Either way, it does not matter, because he would have completed so much and done so much for so many slaves, people, so much work that by the time Johnson would become president, he would literally have so much better of a job and so much more things left to stress about and so much less things to stress about and work around. And by the time we get years in the future with COVID, Trump, Biden, this means that situation, all the hate stuff, the bad things that happened during that time, remember that? That means that would be resolved so much easier and faster because of Abraham Lincoln, because of his work. So in closing, Abraham Lincoln was one of America's most important presidents, but this, him living, would almost immediately and completely make him America's best president. And I think that's something every one of us could agree on. So with that, folks, Abraham Lincoln in this story, even though his original putting in the world and who he was, has left behind a legacy as him being one of the best presidents in the entire world. For what he did, in this story, he would leave behind a greater legacy, a greater posture, and being greater of a man and a president than anyone in the world would ever know. And it would honestly make the world that we live in now, and a lot of the things that we deal with now, a lot less than what they have become or what they did become. Overall, Abraham Lincoln, if he had not been assassinated, would have left behind something even better for our planet, and would have been shown as not just the 16th president, but would increase the morale of future presidents to come. That means Andrew Johnson, and going onwards to the presidents even we have now, and would leave behind true morale, true leadership, and showing and just completely just blowing away the concept of what a president really is and what a president should be. He would show everything about the true morale and goodness of a president. And honestly, I think a lot of us, even though Abraham Lincoln left behind a great legacy in of itself, would have liked to see a more peaceful, greater, and more ultimately happier ending for the 16th president of the United States, Abraham Lincoln. And with that ends the one-parter, folks. It was my first take, besides the John Cena one into The Walking Dead, my first take at a real-life what-if. And even though it wasn't truly in-depth, it was just short, sweet, and simple, I think that you guys will agree that in of itself, it truly showed that Abraham Lincoln would have been ultimately one of the most ultimate presidents had he actually been able to survive through the rest of his presidency. Even if he left behind something good, it would have been even greater had he been given the chance to live out the rest of his life in peace. Unfortunately, I feel that even with this, John F. Kennedy would still die, but I have another what if planned in the future for him. Now, the next real life what if you guys seen the second batch of what ifs, is what if a second Big Bang happened. But if you guys have seen the second batch of what ifs on the list, you'll know that the next actual story is what if Morgan shot Jenny. And if you guys haven't seen the list, go back and check out other Q&As and other community posts to check out other updates on what the stories entail for that second batch, because we are moving right along with even more great stories. And with these stories that we have done on this first batch, we have left behind great stories, and we're moving along with even greater for the future. And I think that all of you can agree that with this first batch, it was a great start in the new training and new track of the Omniverse of Nick. And with that, I hope you guys enjoyed this Abraham Lincoln what if, and are excited for what if Morgan shot Jenny, and the other what ifs to come, including the batch that has been presented to all of you guys. Stay tuned for the next Walking Dead what if with Morgan and Jenny. I'll see you guys later.